Well, we're in the mountains of western North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Province. And I've got a degree in wildlife management. I spent a 30-year career as an environmental consultant, and after that I started doing some wildlife management. And now what I do is what I call grassroots conservation. For example, the Torreya Guardians. I contribute to that in various ways. This particular tree is the first one that I was able to germinate. My first series of seeds were given to me from the 2010 crop, and out of the 10 seeds I got, only one of them germinated. This is it. I kept it in a pot for about a year, which is too long. I should have put it in the ground almost immediately. Plants really don't like to be in pots, in my opinion. I had it planted, Connie, if you could just kind of pan over that away, right beside these two large pine trees. And there were 3 large pine trees there. I had to take the third one down because it was leaning over the house. I don't like big trees leaning over my house.
Yeah.
So I decided that tree's got to go, and it was going to crush this little baby, and I couldn't handle that. So I transplanted it. I was afraid that it might not do well upon transplantation, but as soon as I transplanted it, it grew this much. I don't know if you can see that, Connie, but from finger to finger out here.
Yeah, do that again. I'm taking a close-up. How much did it grow?
It grew, that year I transplanted, that's about 6.5, 7 inches.
Wow.
And the following year, last year, it grew this. That's a little shorter, but that's still a good 6 inches.
Right.
You don't see the growth yet from this year coming up, but all this lighter green around on the tips of the branches, this is all this year's growth. I'm a snowbird. I live up here in the mountains in the summer, and I live in Florida in the winter. Mm-hmm. And I take these potted plants when I'm trying to germinate back and forth, and what I noticed is that when I would plant the seeds in Florida in the winter, and then they would go through the Florida spring. Mm-hmm. Then I would move up here, and they would go through a second spring.
What does that mean? How could you tell they were going through?
Because they would send up 2 shoots, one in the spring in Florida, and a second one in the spring in North Carolina.
What do you mean, send up 2 shoots?
2 sections. It would send up one section in Florida, and then another vertical section up here.
Okay, so you would get 2 verticals in a single year?
Yes.
Okay, and do you still get that now that they're stuck here all winter?
No.
Oh, is that interesting?
Get only one.
You get only one.
These guys are snowbirds.
But they aren't anymore.
These aren't anymore, but they were for a while.
Yeah.
The other trees are planted further down the hill. You can see the kind of trees that I'm within and the setting. The sun it's about 11 a.m. right now. The sun comes up and comes directly over, almost directly over this bush. This plant is on an east-facing clearing, so it gets morning sunlight filtered through the trees. It gets mid-morning to early afternoon sunlight directly, and then in the afternoon it gets some filtered sunlight through the trees.
Have you ever noticed sunburn or winter desiccation on this tree?
Yes, and on this particular tree, when I first moved up here to North Carolina, I had it in a place down in Florida where it was getting morning sun and afternoon shade. When I brought it up here, it had too much afternoon shade and it got sunburned the first few days.
You mean it had too much afternoon sun?
It had too much afternoon sun.
Wow. And so did it lose those leaves and put out new growth? How did it repair itself?
It lost some of those leaves. Some of the leaves were partly damaged. Others continued to live. But once I took it out of the afternoon sun and put it in the ground, it flourished.
Does this get afternoon sun here now?
No.
Peak summer?
No, after about noon or 1 o'clock, it gets no direct sunlight.
What is this? Mountain laurel right in front here.
Well, you're correct about the dominant plant here is mountain laurel, and it's blooming right now, fortunately. But around it we have a number of other trees, not many other species of shrubs, if any at all. behind and above you are white pines. Here is a sourwood about 10 feet away. Here's a red oak about 6 or 8 feet away.
How tall is that red oak about?
That red oak is probably about 50 feet tall, 40 or 50. It's not a very big one. Directly behind you is a red maple sapling that's about 15 feet tall. If the camera were further away, what you would see on these mountain laurels is they're all right at about 12 to 15 feet tall. And I often imagine as the birds fly over these mountain laurels when they're in bloom, they look down, all they see is a sea of white flowers.
Right, now I'm pointing straight up now. What are these canopy trees that I've got?
Okay, the one I think you're pointing at now is a black gum. Behind it over there is a white oak. Here's a sourwood.
Oh yeah, I see okay. Oh yeah, there's a sourwood.
There's about 10 species of trees that grow naturally here. The slopes are acidic. If we were in a more basic cove, we could have up to 20 species. Some of the species here are rare, like pignut hickory, American holly. The black gums never get big here. They're little tiny trees. The red maple's the same way. I'm accustomed to seeing great big red maples in town. Out here, they're little saplings. They never get big.
Okay. What elevation are we here?
About 2,700 feet.
Okay, okay. And what's the bedrock here?
The bedrock is granitic gneiss of the Henderson Gneiss Formation.
Okay. So specifically, this tree was seeds that Torreya Guardians had from our 2010 fall harvest. This is the only one of the 10 seeds that germinated. And so obviously it's your biggest tree that you've got growing here now. Anything special to learn about? Have you supplemented the soil here in any way?
Yeah, I've done just a few things, not many. When I first transplanted, of course, I gave it lots of water and some organic fertilizer, but I've also put some dolomitic limestone crushed around it. I try to do a little bit of that every year. You can see the cage. This is to protect from deer, the bucks scraping the velvet off their antlers, and also just to keep deer and other animals from grazing them.
Yeah.
And of course, I walk around and I look at them frequently, and if there's any damages or whatnot, I take care of them.
Right. Now, one point in terms of the deer browsing on them, our Cleveland, Ohio guy, he had so many deer when I was filming him, the deer were walking right across, the camera here, and his experience is absolutely must protect them from the buckhorn, the antlers. But in the spring growth, the deer would sample the spring growth, before the needles come out, and there was something about the spring growth they did not like. And so he did not have to protect his torrey trees from the deer browsing on them. It was just the bucks. Now, that may be different, here, but that's the first piece of information we've had on whether the deer actually browse on them. Now, rabbits might, who knows?
That would be interesting to know. If it's just rabbits, we don't have to build tall cages.
Right, exactly, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do some close-up on this right now. First of all, what's this retaining wall here that you've got?
This is a silt barrier. I'm building a house, and I'm trying not to pollute the environment.
Right, okay.
And it's doing a good job. There's nothing getting past it.
Okay, so I'm going to, can I walk on that?
You certainly can.
Okay, because this is great for a top-down. I always like to do a top-down here. So what we see is, what's interesting, this is often the case. The top whorl is 4 laterals coming out. And that's new growth this spring. All those 4 laterals on the top is new growth.
They are.
And right underneath it, was that new growth too, or it hasn't put out the top
Well, you can see the dark green is last year's growth and the light green is this year's growth.
Right, but the lateral right under it would have been last year. I mean, the terminal growth
Yes.
under it was last year's. Okay.
Yes.
So, do you see any budding there? Does it look like it wants to put out a terminal coming up?
It looks like it's forming one, but that's not real definite.
Okay, so you'll keep an eye on that, because what we find is that we can't really predict whether sometimes we know clearly it's put out 2 terminal growths in a year, sometimes none in a year, and they just do the laterals. So this gets a lot of good sun and it looks so healthy. The other thing that's really interesting is that the whorl below it looks to me like 5 branchlets come out from below there.
It is, it's 5.
And so often I've seen as many as 6. And so it's not like once a tree starts producing 5, it'll always do 5 or 4 or 4. But give me a count on each whorl down. We've got 4 branchlets on the top. What about the second whorl is 5, and what's the third whorl down?
The third whorl is 6.
6! So you got 6, 5, and 4. Is that cute?
And they're not equidistant. 2 of them are directly below branches above, which may mean that that's actually 2 whorls.
Yeah, okay. Now, what I also like to show is that we're, pretty late in the spring, but any of this kind of growth, oops, where am I here? That you can just, go like this with your hand means it's new growth. Its needles haven't hardened yet, so it doesn't hurt. It's also a bit lighter green. So all 4 of those are new. And on the whorl below, it's very healthy. You can see those are a triplet there. I always count the triplets. Triplet, 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 triplet. All 5 of the next growth have on their tips triplets. And in Junaluska, our biggest ones there, some of them put out quads and even quintuplets. But they're bigger when they started doing that. So, okay, so
This one has 4.
Yes, okay,
Actually,
good. Yeah, you got a
5.
quad. Oh, you got a quint?
Got a quint.
Whoa. That's
Got a quad
nice.
here.
Oh, that's a quad too. Okay. This is extraordinarily healthy.
I like to measure the growth annually, vertically, and an easy way to do that, if you'll notice, the wires on this fence are 4 inches apart. So it's easy to count the height just by counting the number of wires multiplying by 4. Now, it's sometimes hard to relate to that, so I like to take a photograph of that, and what I'll do is I'll aim my camera at the topmost circular wire that is either at or just above the top of the plant.
Right.
And that tells you exactly, if you get back to the right distance, you can tell exactly how far that top of the plant is from the wire, and therefore by counting down, you know exactly how tall the plant is.
Right. Well, also what'll be interesting here, we'll see whether it puts out a new terminal, because we know we got the top whorl right now is 4. The next below it is 5 branches coming out, and below that is 6. So that's often how I do it at Junaluska. I keep track of the number in each whorl, and sometimes they'll die, like on a north-facing, if they get too much shade, they'll just drop one of the branches, but you can still see where it was. So for this tree in future years, start counting in there, and then who knows, it'll be interesting to see when the next terminal, whether it starts with 6 again, or keeps with 4, or goes to 5. Very interesting. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Okay, Buford, what's the deal with this one?
I wish I knew, and that's what we're here to find out. You can see this was a very healthy plant.
Yeah, of how long ago?
And it was it's a 2011 seed, and it's I planted it.
Keep holding it up. I'm going to go to the side here so we can see the number of whorls that it
Probably
had.
2 years ago. The bottom whorl has 4, the next one has 4, the next one has 4, and the terminal bud died. So, let's see what we can see.
Well, first, the last time you saw this tree would have been last fall?
Yes,
Okay, and it was totally healthy then?
yes.
Okay, and so when you arrived, it was dead.
It was dead.
And it had fallen over like that. Well, you know, I think I know what we're going to find. Let me get into a top-down position here so that we can see the autopsy.
These are some of the cross members I put in to keep the wire cage from
Yeah, your
getting
cages are
knocked
terrific.
over by small animals. Now, it's still rooted, so it's
Okay.
not cut off at the bottom. Here's my original 2011.
Yeah. So can you dig around there and carefully see if there's any vole tunnels?
There's a vole tunnel right here.
Oh, ho, ho. There we go.
Goes off this way. I'm sorry you can't see the tunnel.
That's okay.
Oh, bring the camera around here, you can see the tunnel.
Well, you're telling us about it.
It's going off in this
What kind of diameter do you think that? You know, sometimes I grab a stick and I just see how far I can move that stick, you know, like a slippery. Okay, about
2.5 fingers.
Okay, where are you here? Okay.
That's how wide the burrow is.
Okay,
2.5 fingers.
2.5 fingers. Okay. Wow. Okay, now gently move around there and see how much the roots are still holding, so that you're not tearing the roots, but just see where they got eaten. Yeah, good job.
Now these roots are from other plants.
Other plants, right? Yeah, just
the white
get those out
specks
of
in
there.
here is perlite from my original plantings. The little yellow spots are.
Do you shake out some of the perlite? Because I know Lee Barnes likes to shake the perlite out so that they don't get as much drought. And then he puts them in more bare root. Oh, look at that. We just pulled out. Okay, can you see any gnawings on there? Wow.
It's been broken off or gnawed off.
And look at all the bark has been chewed off of that up to where? Yeah. Okay, just about through. Oh my gosh, there's bark chewed off there. Yeah. All right, so I'd say we have rodent. This is the first one you've lost to rodents, right?
I don't know. I've lost 2 more. And
In this way?
I didn't know to dig around and look for the burrows.
I know. I didn't learn that until this year. I've seen some before, and I didn't dig around to look.
But out of the 18 that I've planted here, only 3 of them have died.
Okay, were they all in this area close to your house? Or were any of them down by the driveway?
They were further down the hill.
Okay, they were.
The other 2.
Yeah, because we got a healthy one right there.
Yes.
Okay, because Buford and I had just talked about worrying about seasonal bird feeders, but I'll paste something in about that, because we'll talk about that later. Because this is close to your bird feeder would be up over there somewhere, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
About 75, 80 feet away.
Okay. Okay. It's 5 days later, and I'm editing the video footage of Buford Pruitt's Torreya trees. And I'm going to paste in here some footage that I took a week before that of how I learned by experience about the dangers of rodents and how you see the evidence for them on Torreya trees. I was at the Cornell Bryan Native Plant Garden in Lake Junaluska, North Carolina, and that's about 40 miles northwest of Buford's property in Brevard. There, I came upon the sorry sight of 2 of our torreyas that we had planted way back in 2008. Now, here are the roots of one of them. It was a torreya that we had named in 2008, Wangari Maatai. And this is exactly the way they looked when I just pulled them out of the ground. Cut off, eaten by rodents. Here you can see the actual vole tunnel right by the root. I exposed it with just a little bit of digging. Notice the wire cage to the right on the lower stem above ground. And that had protected the bark above ground ever since 2009, when we had discovered the first set of rodent-killed Torreya trees. But this is how we found her about 10 days ago or so, lying on her side, just like the dead Torreya on Buford's land. Now look at this. This is what the Wangari Maathai Torreya looked like just 1 year earlier in the spring of 2015. She was vibrant. My hypothesis a week ago was that it was a seasonally stocked bird feeder that may have doomed the Wangari Maathai Torreya and the other Torreya we found dead at the same time, the William Bartram tree. Here you can see a video I took of a seasonally occupied house closest to the Cornel Bryan Native Plant Garden area. It was maybe only 80 to 100 feet from the torreys that I found lying on their sides dead. And here's the bird feeder. Right now it's empty, but if occupants coming later during the summer and into the fall keep it well stocked, the grains will regularly fall into the forest, and they would encourage a huge population explosion of rodents, including ground tunneling voles. Then suddenly in the fall, the people are gone. Food is gone. The rodents go, what do we do now? And they fan out looking for more food. And apparently Torreya roots and Torreya bark are an okay famine food. Now that was my hypothesis then. I don't think it is anymore. The evidence seemed compelling at Lake Junaluska, but not at Buford's. Buford told me that, about 3 years ago, he had a bear come and push over his bird feeder and basically raid it. So he stopped feeding the birds. He has not been feeding the birds at all. Now he does seasonally leave, but he's not doing anything during the summer to encourage an overpopulation of rodents. So I'm not sure what it is. Overall, I would discourage anyone who wants to plant torreyas close to their cabin or their home to not use a bird feeder year-round, and particularly not seasonally, leaving the rodents on their own during the winter. But I can't say that's a hard and fast rule. You'll have to use your own judgment. There's just a lot of things we still need to figure out about Torreya taxifolia and how best to nurture it. One thing I'd like to mention, though, is that for any tree like this that has a long lifespan, once it starts reproducing seeds, there will be hundreds, even thousands of seeds produced every year. And that will go on for the life of the tree, maybe 80, 100, 200, or even more years. And during that time, to maintain its population, all that tree has to do is be successful in having just a handful of those seeds, maybe 6, survive into maturity and then keep reproducing. That's it. And to expand the range, maybe a dozen or 20 or 100. So here we have, just in Buford's situation, 18 seedlings he's planted, and thus far 3 have died. Lake Junaluska, we just planted 10 there. 3 were killed by rodents their very first year. 2 again over this past winter, and it looks like 1 more may be on its way out. So it's a tough life out there. I mean, seeds are a vital part of the ecosystem. They service a lot of animals. Species doesn't expect them all to survive. And so we're just very lucky to have anything out in the wild without protection from us, surviving the various vicissitudes along the way of trying to make it up into a mature tree. Now let's back to Buford Pruitt and the rest of his Torreya seedlings. All right, wow. So 2011, this is a gorgeous one right next door here. Yeah, and see how this is so different from the Apalachicola ones in Florida. What happens is that disease strikes, you see the cankers, you see in Florida some of the inner leaflets will turn totally brown while these are still green, and I've just never seen the rodent problem there, but that's out in the state park where there are no bird feeders, there are no homes. So very interesting here. So what do we have here?
This Torreya is from the same crop year, 2011 winter. You can see the top vertical growth for the last year was only about 1.5 inches, and there were only 3 branches on the whorl. The one immediately below it has 6 whorls, 6 branches. Below that is 4, below that is 4.
Okay.
And it looks like there's a little sucker coming up from the
Yay! We call those basal sprouts.
basal sprouts. Okay.
Yeah, because they are a normal part of this tree but even when they're happy and healthy, they put those basals, we always tell people never, ever, ever cut those off. It's natural. And they're just, in case something bad happens to the main stem, they immediately put everything into the basal and they're ready to go.
And it's more leaf area to do more photosynthesis.
Exactly, and it's doing photosynthesis along the way. So, nothing harmed there. Here's a top down. Oh my gosh, just 3 on the top. Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm going to suggest that because the 2 top vertical sections are both about the same color green, it's possible that both of them grew last year.
Yep, we've had that happen.
In which case, it's actually a whole lot healthier than what I may have first alluded to.
Right, exactly. And I see triplets and even on this side a quad. Talk to me about the surrounds here. It looks like you get a nice amount of mottled shade during peak summer.
This is beside a 30-foot wide driveway clearing area. And it only gets direct sunlight for probably a half an hour to an hour a day.
Wow.
But it gets filtered sunlight, I would say most of the morning, although late afternoon it's pretty dense back here.
Yeah.
And ultimately my plan for this tree is to make it clear back to about here by taking out this red maple and this maple and this series of mountain laurels.
Right.
I think it'll give it a whole lot more sunlight. There's a lot of mountain laurels here. It's not like they're endangered. And I want more tree species here, more bush species. I want more biodiversity is what I want.
Right. Now, one thing I forgot to ask at the other one, since these are so close to the house, in the midst of a drought, do you ever give these guys supplemental watering?
The only one I've done that with was the 2010 individual.
Okay, and how often did you have to do that?
I watered it for 2, maybe 3 months after I transplanted it.
Oh, okay, that's standard. When we don't grow it from seed, but it goes from pot, very standard, it gets watered that first summer or whenever. But you haven't watered it in subsequent years?
Nope.
Good, okay, that's good to know.
And I don't believe these have ever been watered.
Okay.
Other than when I first put them in the ground.
Exactly, when you put them in the ground.
And I filled that hole up.
Right. Okay, so the next ones we're going to go right across the driveway here. We got a couple here to look at. I see some fences.
3 or 4.
Okay, let's head on over there. I'll follow you.
All right.
And we've got not only mountain laurels here, we've got a rhodie right back there. And I just want to point this out because he's managing this area, but we've already discovered that rhodies and torreys just don't do very well together. You can see the ground layer here. There's just not much. And these are perennial leaves, and so, it's not like the torreys can just grow in the late fall, early spring like they can under deciduous. So, and we do have, let's see, red maple here, I think, Liriodendron behind it. And I'm just giving the context for these two.
White oak to your left.
Oh, okay, oh, wow, that's a tall, skinny one. Yeah, white oak there. And
Sourwood back here.
oh, sourwood, okay.
See that blocky bark?
Yes.
And this would be another white oak.
Okay.
I see a small white pine. Red maple, Liriodendron.
Yeah, tulip tree. We know that red maple and Liriodendron have the same symbiotic group of fungi for mycorrhizae. So happy to always have them nearby. Okay, Buford, tell me about this one and then we'll go down to the next one.
This one is also a 2011 plant, and it looks like last year it grew about 6 inches. It has a this year's sprout on it. It's about the stem itself maybe 2 inches long, and it's still in a growing mode. So
oh yeah, it's the first one we've seen a terminal coming out of this early in the year.
It also has 2 maybe three suckers coming up from the base.
Basal sprouts. Okay, very important. Do the basal sprouts have any terminal growth at all, or are they just still sprouts?
Well, let me take a look.
Because sometimes the basal sprouts turn into beautiful vertical, putting up terminals and laterals, but
it doesn't yet have a terminal, but it has 4 laterals for the year.
oh my gosh, that's a basal.
And yeah, in the previous year, this basal had 4 or 5, depending on how you count them.
Yeah, okay, and see that's a green stem in there, and then it turns brown, because it seems like it takes 2 seasons for the green stem to turn brown. That's another way to tell. Boy, that's a beauty. Okay, and what's the branchlet count from top to bottom in terms of, is that a 5er on the top?
It's a 5 on the top, a 5, 1, 2, 3, a 5 or 7, depending on how you count them on the second one.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 on the third. And I don't see a 4th.
Yeah. Okay, well this was 2011 seed, so it would have germinated in 2013, just 3 years ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So from the time it first showed itself above ground, it's done this in 3 years. That's pretty awesome. Good job. I think it likes it here. All right, let's go to the next. Oh, now this is a bit shadier here, isn't it?
It's shadier, but you can see how each leaf is going to get a little bit of sunlight at some part of the day.
Yeah, here, let me do a top-down on this one. This one's easy to do a top-down on. So what do we have here?
All right, this is another 2000. This is my.
2011?
This is. It might be a 2010. I mean 2012. The first whorl has 5.
Okay.
And
any terminal growth coming out from vertically this year yet?
There's a tiny bit coming out. It may just be leaves.
Yeah, so the only one we've seen that's already put a vertical up is that one we just did. That's interesting. It's great.
The next one down has 4 whorls, and the one after that has 3. And then there's some leaves that are scattered down below. And let's see if we can find a basal sprout. Well, here's a branch coming out at the base of the plant, but not a basal sprout.
Yeah, it doesn't look like.
Oh, here's a basal sprout.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And it has 3 branches this year. And while we're at it, we're going to take out this white pine competitor.
Oh yeah, always good. We love that kind of manipulation. Those Junaluska, we had like this tiny white pine next to where we planted one in full sun. They're taller than me now. And that white pine has shot up and creates so much shade now. So it's good that you're here to tend it. The other thing that's nice about these deer cages is that you can find them. You just look for these cages. All right, so where's our next?
Just down the hill.
Okay.
I'm standing here in a very small settling basin where water comes down off my driveway, settles here, all the sediments settle out, and then the water continues on down to the creek. So what that means is that there's a water source here for a torrey that I planted 5 feet away on this side, and another one that's planted 3 feet away on the other side.
Oh, that's great.
They are going to get some help from me this year as I remove some of these mountain laurels. This is a beautiful individual. It is, I'm trying to remember, it was 2010. I believe this is a 2012.
2012. So it would mean that it germinated in 2013, and this is its 13, 14, 15. So it's 3 years old. Look at the height there. That's an amazing span, and that last that green terminal, that green growth of last year upward. Oh my gosh, that's
Let's start
great.
from the top down.
Yeah.
We have a terminal growth.
Oh, it's coming up already.
It's young yet, but you can see that the leaves are up a little bit more than an inch.
Oh yeah.
Underneath them, we have a whorl of 6 branches,
Yeah. Okay.
each of which has 3.
Triplets.
Well, they average 3.
Yeah. Okay.
All but 2 of them have 3. The other 2 have 2
Yep.
and 4.
Okay.
That's an average of 3. I don't even have to do that math on paper. Now, the next vertical section
That's about the tallest we've seen of any of your
is about
specimens.
9 inches tall.
Yeah.
And underneath it is a whorl of 5 branches.
Okay.
And coming off the ends of those branches, we got a 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. So we're getting some growth down below, but most of the growth is up here on the top. We're getting 3s up here. We're getting 1s and 2s and 3s down here.
Right. Right.
Now let's see if we have any basal
Yeah. See if there's
sprouts.
any basal in there.
Yes, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 little basal sprouts.
Wow.
About 2 millimeters in diameter. They're thin.
That's great. Okay, anything else about this tree? It's very interesting about the water situation you've got here. That could prove very healthy here.
One other thing I can say, we are where 2 creeks come together, and we're just a few feet above the floodplain.
Oh,
What this means hydrologically is there's no shortage of water.
right.
There is no shortage. Let me tell you how much there's no shortage. That's a pump house behind you. That's a well that goes down 110 feet. It produces 30 gallons a minute.
Whoa.
The well driller and I used to joke about me starting my own water company. There is no shortage of water down here.
Okay.
Let's look at the second one beside
Yeah.
the settling pond. It's actually bigger than the first one.
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
my
so
gosh. Same year, same age?
Same year, same age. It also has a terminal branch that's about 1 inch long, maybe 1.25 inches.
So it's already sending up a shoot upwards, okay.
The whorl has 4 branches, and the new growth on them is 3 branches, 3 branches, 4 branches, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches.
Okay.
Down
Let me
below
do,
it,
I'll do a
the
top down on this.
internode distance is about 6 inches. That was a good year last year. And underneath that we have 5 branches in a whorl and a bunch more branches that aren't in whorls. So evidently the year before was a really good year to grow.
My gosh. Well, also what's interesting, if you could just put your hand underneath the top leaves inner, look how gigantic. Because that's what we notice. If they get sun and they're happy, they put out those gigantic leaves. But if they're not quite so happy, their leaves are half as big. That is awesome. Very nice. Okay. So let's go to the next one. First of all, we are right by a creek here. What is that, a creek?
That is a little creek.
Okay. And this is a roadies. Oh, look at this. We've got oak up there.
White oak, red oak.
Okay.
There's a
Roadies.
hickory over here.
Okay. I see
Sourwood.
Mount Laurel. There's roadies there. Because that's dark. That is a deep, dark canyon back there. Oh, this is a small one.
That's a 2013.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so 2013 seed harvest in the fall, germinated. Are you telling me this germinated? Oh wait, it germinated in
In the winter of 13, 14.
Okay. Oh my gosh. It germinated in the winter of 13, 14. We're in the spring of 16. It's just a little over 2 years above ground and it's that big already?
This one's a whole lot smaller than I would expect it to be. Last year's growth the internodal growth is probably less than 3 inches.
Yeah.
Below that, it's about four strong, and below that, about 5. The top whorl, I see no new growth, terminal growth for the year. The top whorl is 4, and they have come out this year, so they don't have any terminal additions. The next whorl down.
Oh, I see. So the top whorl is new growth.
Yes.
It was coming out of, so it's going to grow that for a little bit before it's going to set up a vertical again.
Yes, and I suspect it will set up a vertical.
Yeah.
And the others are just, this branch has 3 new growth branchlets. The rest of them have at most 1, and some have none. And there are no basal sprouts.
Okay. Very interesting.
I think the reason this one's not doing as well is because we've got the creek over here to pull the water table down.
Oh.
And we've got my driveway over here to run the water off. So I think this is just not getting as much water as it'd like. But I don't know that.
Right. These are just speculations. That's why it's so great to have these in, you know, some of the same, some different habitats. And you giving us your sense of what's going on. Hopefully I'll be able to take some videos in the years to come, and we'll be able to check up on these things. What are you checking for?
It's entirely
there?
possible it's getting too much water.
Oh, really?
But I don't think so.
No. No.
A little competition.
All right, well, let's go to the next. I see the next one is that one right across the creek there?
The black walnut, that's, yeah, that's another one.
Okay. Okay.
This plant is also from the 2013 crop. And this plant has had a hard life. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but this cage was fairly well bent up. I came out here one day, and evidently a group of animals, either deer or coyotes, had come through from the forest up there, and they bounded their way down, and one of them hit this cage.
Oh my
Knocked it
God.
clean over, smashed it down flat, and the plant itself was smashed down and being held underneath it at a 90-degree angle to the vertical. I, of course, fixed it, and the tree's fine.
Right. And what year did this one, what seed crop was this, and what year did it germinate, probably?
Another 2013 crop.
Okay, so these are your youngest ones that you've
Yes.
got.
Yes.
Okay. So what's the number of branchlets on each? Just 2 whorls, right?
3 whorls.
Okay.
The top one, there is no terminal growth for the year yet.
Yeah.
And each one of these 1, 2, 3, 4 terminals has 2 branchlets new for the year.
Yeah.
The next whorl down is about 6 inches down. Mm-hmm. That's how much it grew last year, and
Wow.
it has 4 branches in the whorl, and I don't believe a single. Yeah, one of them has 1 branchlet coming off to the side.
And how long ago did the coyotes push the thing over?
Probably about a month after I planted them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's a tiny little basal shoot way down here,
That's okay. You can just.
and I'm going to get this white pine while I'm at it.
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, it's good to know. And here's the little creek.
Let me add
Running
one
under
thing
here.
about the animals coming through here.
Uh-huh.
If you pan up in that way with the camera, you can see I put all kind of sticks up there. If they come running pell-mell
yeah.
through here again,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
going to come over here or over there, but they're not going to come here.
Yeah, good job. Good job. All right. So, oh my gosh, we got another one right over there.
Yes.
Okay, let's go over there.